All right, everyone, now it's day 3 of Ilhan Omar Fiasco, and it's really affected both parties fairly severely. They're both fumbling this issue so badly and failing really so totally. It's astonishing, especially the Republicans, actually. The biggest failure is that they haven't so far, like they voted in favor of the House resolution. And the initial House resolution was a direct reaction to Ilhan Omar saying stuff that was taken to be anti-Semitic. Now, I don't take it that way. Although she probably is an anti-Semite because she's a religious fanatic. I don't take what she said that way. It's more about lobbies and foreign influence, which is like if she said it about Russia, it would have been accepted by everyone in Congress. Oh yeah, the Russians are always trying to influence our political system, but then she mentions AIPAC, it's a big problem. I thought that was funny. That's the initial thing, though, that got people's dander up. Instead of passing a resolution saying, look, we condemn these particular statements, they're unbecoming someone in the House because you're not supposed to question our relationship with this one particular foreign state. Instead of being honest about it, they were talking about like Pacific Islanders and shit like that, and the language of Hindus and Pacific Islanders and the LGBT community and people that face hate. Now, notably, there's one group that's left out, which is white people. In fact, it mentions white supremacy. Oh, whereas white supremacists are constantly haranguing and doing... It's like, okay, you focus on one particular group that is hateful and all sorts of groups that are supposedly maligned, but you notably leave out everybody else in the hateful category and leave out this one particular group within the category of people who are maligned. I think that that's a little bit weird. It looks like there's a good chunk of your constituents that you're not representing within this thing. So in other words, you can't be hateful against white people is basically what Congress is saying. And then the Republicans, what they should have done, and a few Republicans voted against it, and they were immediately dogpiled. But they did the right thing. They should have voted against it. Every single Republican should have voted against it. They should have said, look, this resolution is about Ilhan Omar, a person who has said things that we find objectionable. That's what they should have done. Now, they've got one chance to redeem themselves, and the odds of them doing so are very, very small, because the Republican House leadership is spineless. These are a bunch of fucking yellow-bellied jellyfish at this point. Nothing but disrespect for the House Republican leadership. They've got one chance to undo this and actually score a few political points in the process and make it clear, yeah, we actually give a damn about, sort of the will of the people that voted for us. Most of these people are, of course, they have a lot of evangelical voters that are like, hail Israel. Here's what you do. Put forth a new resolution and dare Pelosi, by the way, to table it. Put forth a resolution specifically condemning Ilhan Omar, in no uncertain terms saying, look, whereas Ilhan Omar said this, this, and this, we condemn her, she should be off the Foreign Affairs Committee, shame on her. Now, it's like some people say, well, that's boomer talk. No, I'm talking about political strategy. Politics, you gotta understand, political strategy isn't always about, well, what's right, it's also about what's pragmatic. Yes, part of it is a floor show. It is Shakespearean. Fucking get used to it. Politics has always been like that. In the history of mankind, there's never been a period in human history in any culture that had an organized political structure where that's not the case. So fucking who cares about whether what Ilhan Omar said is actually inaccurate or hateful? That doesn't matter. Get your mind off of the objective facts and look at how people perceive it. The Republicans have fumbled this completely now. What they should do is put forth that separate proposal, a specific rebuke of specifically what Ilhan Omar said, and herself as a person, and dare the Democrats not to vote for it. That's what they should do. And you watch, Pelosi would probably be pressured by her own party to table it, which means that the Democratic leadership would implode. They would be seen as encouraging hate. So, well, we condemn all violence. Oh, but you don't condemn this specific act of bigotry or whatever. They did this to Trump successfully, at least among their constituents. It's a good way for the Republicans to rattle swords, but they're too weak to do that. And then the alternative is Pelosi doesn't table it and it gets shot down by the Democrats in Congress, or they vote for it, alienating the far left. Ahead of a major election. Look, the Republicans don't realize what they've been given. They've been given a golden gift here, and they're not using it. And this is why I've said consistently, Trump is not a Republican. He's too good at strategy to be a Republican. He's really a Democrat. He's really a Democrat. He's intelligent. He's a little bit on the dubious side, but he knows political strategy. The Republicans don't know political strategy. The Republicans would rather lose gracefully. That's the old joke about conservatives. It's kind of true. The neocons are like, oh my God, please, please, anything here, take my fucking job. Just don't call me hateful. No, just don't call me a bigot. And then Pelosi and Clyburn. Here's the saving grace for the people on the right. Clyburn and Pelosi have both tried to defend Ilhan Omar, and they failed in a spectacular manner. Pelosi comes out, well, she didn't really understand the depth of what she was saying. It's like, okay, so here's the party that rambles about the Holocaust every time it wants to push a shitty piece of legislation, the Democrats. They like to morally browbeat people. Somehow, jumps down the throat of a bunch of high schoolers from Covington. They should have known better than to stand there smiling the wrong way when approached by other people beating drums in their faces. That's totally sane. But Ilhan Omar, who's pushing 40, she's just too fucking dumb. She just doesn't understand the ramifications of what she says. No, what it really is you're covering for her ass because she doesn't understand political strategy. She's a political zealot. She is a religious zealot. And so when she says off-the-wall shit, she's like AOC. She does the same thing. She says off-the-wall shit that maybe she believes it, maybe her constituents like it. She's not thinking in terms of the fact that the Democrats are a federal-level party. There's a difference between the two. It's one thing to say, well, my constituents are going to love it when I say X, Y, and Z. Yes, but is it going to adversely affect the party in an era where independent content creation and instantaneous information transfer in a 24-hour news cycle means that something that used to say local or regional is now a national issue, potentially, if it wrangles people on a large enough scale. And this is pushed by the MSM. Not so much against the Democrats. Usually 90% of the time they're attacking people who are conservative or want freedom, like libertarians or nationalists or something. But sometimes they can't help but go after the liberals. It's pretty funny in some cases like this. Clyburn comes out, tries to defend her comments, looks even worse than Pelosi. He's like, well, he just sort of bumbles around. And he's like, ancient as the sands of time, isn't that dude pushing 80? He looks it. So, yeah, the Democrats are trying to defend her, and it's like, why die on this particular hill? And then they put forth their dumb resolution. Everyone's jumping down the throats of the Democrats, especially in the wake of this. Some of the far-left pundits are like, oh, well, here's the Republicans that voted against it. Shame on them. They got to explain. The explanation is the resolution was meant to be about Ilhan Omar, to condemn her comments. Both the Democrats and Republicans seemed aboard with that. The Democrats decided to change it around, omitting any mention of Omar whatsoever. So the initial resolution was meant to rebuke a member of Congress for what they said and their activity after they had been warned the first time, like with the Benjamins quote that Ilhan Omar made. She was warned even by her own party, can you stop doing this? It's becoming politically inconvenient. She's chosen to do it again. And then Pelosi and all these others get together in a huddle and suggest rebuking her. And a bunch of Democrats say, no, you can't rebuke her and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you can criticize Israel, absolutely. You can criticize AIPAC, absolutely. But then I see also at the same time, there are some people that are like nationalistic, including ethno-nationalists, which is the hilarious part because she's, a non-white socialistic female. I guess the socialism part applies to some of these ethno-nationalists now, which is hilarious. You going way out there, into a path that most people are not willing to trod. You get to the point where Ilhan Omar's comments are primarily, they're being defended by people who I think have an ideological axe to grind, but aren't even part of the left. They're not even part of they're certainly not Democrats. It's just really funny to see this mix up the entire political scenario in the country. It's going to play some sort of role in 2020, but the thing is, it's so malleable at the moment. Sort of these different groups are getting together, shouting each other down. It's not clear exactly who wins, if anyone. It's more, it just makes the political system in this country look like a farce. You got people saying you can't criticize Israel, then you can't criticize Omar because then you're an Islamophobe or something. It's like she has loyalty to CAIR, to that CAIR group. I don't know if CAIR is how it's pronounced, the one that's linked to Hamas and stuff. No, I'm not going to stand by that either. I'm not going to stand by a bunch of terrorists, which is literally what they are. Then again, at the same time, I'm not going to stand with AIPAC. They represent a foreign lobby. They don't represent U.S. interests. Oh, but it's the American-Israeli... I don't care about that fact. You've got a bunch of people that are primarily attempting to use U.S. power to advance Israeli military interests. I don't care about Israeli military interests. Now, I don't care if it's a trading partner or a military partner. Look, the UK is a major trade partner. The UK is a military partner. I don't want to send a bunch of money to the UK either for a bunch of weapons or whatever. It's not because I'm a Britophobe or something like that. It's just because I think we need to manage things at home. We're deep in debt. Why are we sending people so much money? We've got problems with big shadowy corporations and foreign lobbies and everything influencing our political system. Right now, big news of the day, practically, is the Democrats every single day are rambling about foreign influence from Russia. Why aren't they worried about foreign influence like, again, CARE or AIPAC or some of these groups? Oh, it's because they've been there for a while, so they don't have a problem. You're getting money from them, so it's okay. What, Putin didn't have one of his spy versus spy people hand you a briefcase full of rubles in a back alley? Or was it that you got the rubles, you realized how little they were worth, and so you called the deal off? That's really the problem. Russia doesn't have the influence and money necessary to influence the political structure, but there are other groups, I suppose, that do. And Ilhan Omar only calls out one of them, somehow becomes a hero of a bunch of nationalists, despite she's not looking out for U.S. interests either. She's looking out for the interests of the caliphate. So, fuck Ilhan Omar. That's about all. Peace out.